Hey there, it's Heather Smith with RailRacingTips.com, and I am coming to you just finishing up with Pistols Session 7. So, wanted to go live with another Pistols progress video. I am literally still in the arena. I just turned Pistol loose in here to eat some grass. I like to keep a fair amount of balance in my sessions so that there's something enjoyable in it for him. And if you look, kind of funny, there on the other side of the fence in the lawn is a great big jackrabbit. So they're grazing together. So I was thinking about finding some shade. I had to really hustle this morning to try to get our session in before it got too hot. I think the high is 97 today. So anyway, but there really isn't any shade. But I might go in the barn and just let him graze for a few minutes. So I wanted to talk to you today about staying progressive and consistent and what that looks like for me and what I think is necessary in order to stay progressive. Now, it's probably better off I go in the barn because I can't even tell where the camera's pointing. So anyway, I think in order to be progressive, of course, we have to have really clear goals. And I am in a unique position right now where I've been a little bit loose and a little bit vague about my goals, my competition goals, because of all the other projects that we have going on at the moment. Now over here, the stereo is really loud. But I'm gonna go find some shade, so hang with me. So, having really clear-cut goals is important, but then I think that, so it's like what gets measured gets improved. So to some degree, we have to know what our end result is going to look like and what it feels like. Now the wind is probably going to be too much over here. So anyway, I think I found a good spot. So what gets measured gets improved. And that means that we have to have systems to fall back on. We have to have some way of measuring our progress. We have to have some sort of structure to fall back on to know if we have the ingredients that are going to build and are going to make like what it takes to get to our end goal. And so, oh, that's my EquiTrack app. I cut short the last 7 minutes of walking and so it just went off. So that's a tip for staying progressive, using the EquiTrack app, because it gives you structure. You don't go out into your exercise session and just kind of like randomly guess how many minutes that you're spent trotting, loping. A lot of the times we won't, without realizing it, we'll cut our warm-up, we'll make our walking in the beginning of our rides not long enough, or we won't walk them out enough afterwards, which by itself is huge, huge, huge for decreasing soreness. And so anyway, the EquiTrack app is a way to track your progress and have a system in place that keeps you in line and keeps you progressive. So that's an example of one that I use. So I scratched down a couple notes because I always have so many important points to make. I want to make sure I'm kind of succinct, but that I don't miss any. So I was going to mention, I was just going to go into what it looks like for me. So after Pistol's last session, after his first few sessions, he wasn't quite delivering to me like the quality of gait that I wanted and responsiveness. And so I thought, well, what do I need to do here to set him up for success? Because if I were to get like really firm with him, then I could get the responsiveness I need, but then I lose some of the mental connection. And then at the same time, I have to have that mental connection to have like the quality shape to his body. And so it's like this balancing act. And so I thought, well, what can I do? I thought, what can I do to make the communication line between the two of us more clear. And so this goes back to an example of that would be like bit selection based on your individual horse. So like pistol and .com are like night and day different. .com is so spatially aware and so sensitive, and that's both what makes him great and makes him challenging. And pistol is by nature a little bit more dull, and that's what makes him really easygoing and fun to be around. And but it also requires a person to really stay on their toes to keep him like super responsive. And so we have to make sure that we have the right communication tools that work for that horse's tendencies. But at the same time, we don't want to put limitations on things or make excuses for their tendencies. We want to become the person who can create as much balance as possible so that we can take those horses who tend to be a little bit dull and help them be as responsive and light as they can consistently. And, you know, then maintain the emotional balance in those more sensitive horses. So what I ended up doing is that I really like the weight of the line that I'm using, but I thought I use it to actually not only to ask him to stop on a circle, but also to like shape his pole. And I thought, you know, that could be actually really confusing. When he is way out there at a distance, he's not a super sensitive horse by nature. Like, I know that I could create the differentiation, but it's like, oh my gosh, I have like 10 other things to create too. So I thought, if I had a little bit heavier snap on the end of this line, I think I could make the communication a little bit more clear for him and a little bit more easy to understand. So I ordered a heavier snap. And then when he was still having a little bit of trouble with his hind leads, actually did really good today, but I thought, you know, I want to make absolutely certain that I have ruled out, or I'm addressing like everything from a soundness perspective, because it is so easy for us to try to deal with soundness issues, subtle things, subtle soundness issues through training, and in the process actually just make them worse, and you know, again, subtly over time. And I thought, you know, he's 15. I have these huge goals. I'm like, I'm not messing around. Like, I absolutely cannot go forward, like kind of sort of trying to fix this soundness issue or think that it's training, right? So I'm like, all right, I got to do everything it takes. And that doesn't mean immediately taking your horse to get him injected either necessarily. But so what, not that might not be part of the bigger picture at some point, but it's not my immediate like, oh, sore horse, you know, it's not my immediate go-to. But I'm like, you know, I'm going to look a little bit closer at his hoof balance. Abe, I love the comments. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hey, Billy, good morning. Hi, Stacy, you're so welcome. So by the way, it's Friday. I would love to know, what are your plans for the weekend? Tell me in the comments. Are you going to be riding and running somewhere? Tell me what your goals are. So anyway, I did some research and I made a game plan, and I looked a little bit closer at his hoof balance. I touched up his feet just a little bit this morning. I've made kind of a new plan to like make some shifts with his therapy routine. And so when I talked about like having structure or falling back to something, like one of the things that I offer a lot of different types of these sort of checklists and systems through my books and so forth. But one thing that we can do is always, if we're like kind of confused on where to start or where to look, just remember the three components of everything we do with our horses is mental, which is their education, emotional, which is how they're feeling, and then on the inside, you know, that quality, and then physical. And so we can always think about, when we're struggling with something or our horse is struggling with something, there's usually, it's one of those components, or there's always, when there's a problem in one area, there's going to be a little bit of issues in the others too, because it's all connected. So that's something to fall back on. And so that's what I was like regrouping. So it's not out of the ordinary for me to have a session with my horse, get feedback from them, and be like, you know, this isn't quite aligning with what I need now to get where I want to go. So this is the research I need to do. These are the changes I need to make. These are the adjustments I need to make. Yeah, Stacy, it is so hot and humid here too. I finally found some shade. It's crazy. And I had never realized until I moved to Texas that you have to wear a belt for more than just fashion. Like to actually hold your pants up. There's a phenomenon that we call swamp ass down here, where your jeans just you have to get them like a size too small because they get so sweaty and stretched out. It is just crazy. And I lived up north for the majority of my life, and so this is, well, starting like about 5 years ago, this is all new to me, but it's still, I'm like, wow, this is intense. I never complain, but it is a whole different world, that's for sure, dealing with the heat. So love hearing what you guys are doing this weekend. That's awesome. So I'll get back on track here. So we have to know the ingredients it's going to take to get where we want to go. And we have to fall back on that system and be like, well, what else can I do? So here's the thing. The big thing that I wanted to start with that I overlooked was that I believe in possibility. Like, there are a lot of people that Pistol is like my dream horse, right? But for a lot of people, they would be like, nah, he's lazy. He's not picking up his hind left lead. He's crippled, blah. You know, like, they would just like put these limitations on things. And those are not facts. Those are just beliefs. You know, and there's a huge, huge difference. And the thing of it is that a little bit of soreness on one day is, it's just an indicator towards something that needs to shift. And it could be some small thing that makes like the biggest difference. And what you're looking at today, you could discover the answer or the change, and it could be like night and day tomorrow. Or it could take you 5 years to figure out the combination of things that you need. But we never want to rule things out or call things impossible when that's just like a limited belief that usually, you know, that we get programmed into us from, you know, the way the world, the way so many people are wired. And so, but that is like the opposite of how I'm wired. And so that's what I want to share with you. And so anyway, I revisited his joint supplements, which I talked about last time, to make a new game plan for that. I adjusted his game plan for his therapy. I'm looking at his hoof care. I adjusted the tools that I'm using to communicate with him to make things a little bit more clear. And I also am holding myself accountable for being more consistent, because if I want like razor sharp responsiveness, then I have to be that all the time. And here's the thing, when it's like really hot and you're really tired and you're short on time, your horse, like just when you're leading them from point A to point B and they're a little bit sluggish, and you just kind of overlook it, right? You're like, oh, come on, I just got to get you over here and put you away. And it's like, you know what? All that good stuff that you just created in the arena where you had them rise above and really responsive, you just threw it away because you were in a hurry. And I'm like, guilty as charged. So I think one of the huge solutions for being more consistent ourselves is to set ourselves up so that we're not getting in a rush. And it is very intentional that we do not have 10 horses and that we're not like trying to do too much. I really believe in quality over quantity, and that we'll get further faster that route by putting the very best of the time, the attention, the investment, everything into fewer horses to achieve higher level goals. And so I went back also and I studied some of my notes, and I am a big I have like such a huge library because I think back on so many of the learning experiences, the people, the experts I've ridden with, the clinics I went to, all the resources that I've collected, and I'm like, you know, I've been with this horse a while. there's got to be something I can refresh my mind on. This is probably what I was kind of dealing with, is probably nothing new. I'm going to go reread some of my reminders and my notes from the past to just refresh my memory. And sure enough, I found some like really critical, really important reminders for being, for helping him. And one of them, for a more laid back horse, is being a lot more intense with them mentally. Like, when you're asking him to do something, I mean, connect, like, be like a laser, like, connect with that, like, really use your energy more, and then you can use the physical cues a lot less. But again, we have to really be in the moment and be really conscious and be really reminding ourselves to do that. Yes! Billy, I love what you're saying. And, right. It's just about finding balance. And I have found too, it was a huge learning experience many years ago when I had a little mare who I was still running into her 20s, and we were kind of on a borderline soundness wise. And I was in a position where I had moved to go ride. I had moved out of state to go ride with a world champion barrel racer. I was there for several months, and then I moved back to the town I was living in, and my mare, I didn't end up having time to ride her when I was there working. And so when I came back, and up north this summer, the season is pretty short, so I felt like I was so behind. I did not have her in the conditioning that I wanted to, and I ended up doing so well that summer. And I think I'm a pretty ambitious person, to where I think in my history, I had been overdoing it in the past. So it's just about that balance where overriding those older horses that have some pathologies or have a little bit of arthritis, and it's like it's a fine balance where you don't want to risk them becoming injured because you're not conditioning them enough, but at the same time you're not really going to put the hammer down quite like you would maybe with a younger horse. And so you've got to maintain that balance where you're not really exercising them in a way, or exercising them so much that you're just triggering that inflammatory process, and it's just staying at a too high of a level for them to perform well. So, but yeah, it's like experimentation, and that's why this is a really valuable time for me, because I kind of have the time and the space to do that. So I'm just going to read through your comments. So I really intended to be a little bit more succinct and organized, and then I'm like, I have got to get Pistol Session done first before I tuned in here, because it's so hot out. And that was the other thing, is that I really need him to put in his best effort and energy. And if I wait a half an hour or an hour later in the day here in Texas, I am setting him up to fail, because it is so freaking hot. Like, if I want to establish good habits and set him up for success, I need to be out here while it's still cool, and a half an hour or an hour later can be the difference that makes the difference as far as his effort level. So that's another example. So yeah, and like I said, after his last session, and this is really common, after I work my horse, I'll really analyze. So I'm constantly analyzing and measuring things, and then I'm like, well, if this is where I want to go, and this is where I'm at, I don't know the answer, but something's not quite right here. Something needs to change and needs to be adjusted. So then I go to work and do my homework and make and reevaluate my plan and make some adjustments and some changes to get at it again, and so that the next session I'm set up for success even more. And I'm always correcting course. And sometimes I put just as much time into planning and thinking and reviewing and analyzing after each ride that I do for the actual ride. So I put about the same amount of time into therapy as I do the ride itself or the session itself, and just as much afterward in like analyzing and regrouping and thinking about tweaks I need to make for the next one. So I'm just going to go through some of your awesome comments before I sign off. And my intention, like, of course, this is really pretty casual, and I intended it to be that way. That's just how it has to be. But my goal with these is to get a little bit more organized as I go forward, so I can be a little bit more succinct and offer you more value. So I just wanted to read through some comments here and say hello. Yeah, Stacy, oh yes, this is so hot. Oh, Casey, so sorry to hear about that. Yeah, well, keep tuning in with me, because this entire month, that's what I'm doing with Pistol. And there are some exercises in both my exercises books. There's 2 entire chapters for groundwork exercises. So there's lots of value that can come from it. And when something like that happens, I always think to myself, like, I always think something good is going to come from it. You know, so that's just what you have to focus on in those situations. Yes, Stacy, totally. And I know what it's like too in that part of the country where it's really humid. Like where I lived in Wyoming, it was the heat, well, we get hot, but it was always dry. Where I'm originally from in North Dakota and I went to college in Minnesota, it was really pretty humid there. But that is totally the thing here in Texas too, where going to the restroom is like a real ordeal. Yeah, you can't get your pants on and off. Oh my gosh. Athena, that's a good question. I don't usually answer those specific ones like on Q&As and stuff like that, because I really need to have like background information. So if you're at a point where you could use a little bit more help with that, keep my video coaching in mind. Yep, I'm so with you, Billy. Billy, my sessions, they're probably around 30 minutes. Again, I'm following the conditioning schedules from my book, and I've just modified them a little bit. So right now, I think I walk for 7 minutes, and then we trot for 3.5 minutes one way, trot for 3.5 minutes the other way. We lope 2 minutes one way, lope 2 minutes the other way, and then we trot again for 3.5 minutes each way, and then we end with 7 minutes of walking. And again, like, I don't like to pigeonhole myself into like only focusing on minutes, but we're really doing a lot of training and working on quality. And then, like I said, the minutes thing, it just helps make sure that I'm not guessing and wishy-washy, and like, you know, you've got to know where you're going, and you've got to have the structure. Just when you set up the structure, it does the work. It keeps you on track for you. That's the beauty of that app. So yeah, the thing about it is that there are a lot of people in Texas that put lights up, and we have one light up in the corner of our barn that shines in the corner of the arena. But Craig gets up really early for work, so getting up really early is always something that we'll be doing, and so we need to be going to bed early too. So staying up until 10 o'clock to ride just doesn't really work for our life at this point. And then there's no doubt about it that here anyway, that it is always coolest in the morning. Like, you could stay up till midnight or later riding horses, but it is always going to be cooler. The coolest part of the day is early in the morning. Like, so I try to get out here at 6 and get started and be wrapped up by 8. So, okay. Thank you so much for tuning in. Again, sorry for going for so long. I appreciate your understanding and patience, and I intend to get a little, like I said, more succinct and organized in advance, so that I can get Pistol's session completed and beat the heat. And then come to you and keep it kind of short and sweet, but super powerful and valuable. But anyway, it's fun to connect and just visit, right? So yeah, Billy, you asked about video coaching. So if you go to the Ride With Me page at barrelracingtips.com, and then there's a little bit of blurb there that introduces the video coaching option. There's also a friendship option that I set up too, which is like several video coaching sessions But the video coaching session by itself is what's just 1 hour of us talking over the phone, visiting about your runs, and it's not just like a superficial run critique. And actually, I can help folks with mental game, horse health, you name it. So I'm happy to do that too. So it's more than just reviewing runs, but I have a questionnaire that I have you fill out, and so it goes really in depth. So it's an investment, but it's not just a superficial run critique like it is. We can really have the time and space to go really deep. So, but on the Ride With Me page at barrelracingtips.com, you can learn more about that. And then when we get our arena finished, it's my intention to start. I'm thinking about starting to offer like a weekend package where you'll have the option to come ride with and stay with us for the weekend. So our place is set up really well for that. Our arena just hasn't been, but it's gonna happen this year. So anyway, thank you all so much for joining me. And yeah, that would be awesome, huh? All right, well, I've got to go get Pistol and take care of him and get him put away. Yeah, wouldn't it? It would be so much fun. So thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll be back Monday morning with another Pistol's progress report. I'll let you know how things went over the weekend. Pay attention to my stories. I try to do my best to post some fun behind the scenes stuff from there. And then of course, Tuesday, more Q&A, Tuesday evening. And oh, I just saw there's another jackrabbit. They're just like kangaroos here. So anyway, this has been fun, and we'll see you again soon. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.